Hey everybody, welcome to a new chapter of Old Man Brad. If this is your first time in, thanks for checking me out. If you're returning for another chapter, I love having you back. We are in the middle of October. Well, it's still the beginning of October. We are in October. Last week, for Tales from Tubi, I started off with my guest, Gerald from Two Peas on a Podcast, as we talk 1989's Intruder. This week is no different. I'm going to keep the October fun rolling. I'm going to give some spoiler-free thoughts on The Exorcists. Not Exorcist Believer that is in theaters right now. This is a film starring Doug Bradley that is on digital and VOD right now. After that, I had the chance to chat with the writer-director of The Exorcists, Jose Prendes, and he brought a few guests with him that we chatted with. Gabriel Pranter, 80s Scream Queen, Michelle Bauer, and from Subspecies, one of my favorite series, Denice Duff. I had a blast talking to them, so we're going to roll into that here in just a few. Before I dive into the interview, subscribe to the show so you never miss any episode. I have a lot of great episodes lined up for October. You won't want to miss any of them. Follow me online. Follow me at Tubi Tuesday on X/Twitter, or follow me on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com/oldmanbrad, where you can keep track of everything that I'm watching. All right, let's move into The Exorcists.
What are we dealing with here?
Her name is Huxley Hendricks. She's dying. I think we can save her.
3 priests to represent the Trinity. Round-the-clock exorcisms.
When do we start?
How soon can you pack?
What exactly are we going to be doing today?
Be careful. She bites. She asked for you.
By Huxley.
By name.
Here to help you.
Tonight is the night. Open your eyes.
It wants us here,
Oh, I'm out.
all at the same time.
Sophie, wait.
This isn't an exorcism.
Where'd she go?
It's a trap.
All right, so The Exorcists, it is put out by The Asylum. And for anyone who knows their movies, like, they know their movies. One of my favorites of theirs that came out last year was Shark Side of the Moon. They do have, like monster versus monster movies. They'll have snake movies, shark movies, other horror movies, other, like, action type movies. Typically, they are just stupid, silly fun, and there's a star attached that someone you recognize, and you're like, ooh, I need to watch this movie. So, The Exorcists doesn't fit the stupid, silly side. It is more serious, and this is one when the first thing I saw was the poster ever. I saw it posted online for The Exorcists. It's black and white, upside down cross, and I was like, look at that. With this other movie coming out that's in theaters, right at the top it said Doug Bradley. Immediately, I was like, ooh, I need to look this up. So I looked up the trailer and saw it stars Doug Bradley as a priest. And the synopsis is, to save his family, a father hires 3 expert exorcists to get rid of the demon possessing his child. So like I said, I saw Doug Bradley was top billed in it, and immediately piqued my interest. I watched the trailer and I was like, ooh, this does look pretty good. I mean, anyone who listens to Old Man Brad or sees any of the movies that I watch, I love indie horror films. Absolutely love them. I know there's a lot of work that goes into indie, usually a bigger budget one. I feel like they kind of lose their roots for where they started. Sometimes it's that big budget, a studio steps in, a studio says this has to be a certain way, and I feel like indie horror has a little more freedoms, and that's what I love about it. And you'll hear when we talk to Jose about The Exorcists, just kind of what he wanted to put into it, what he wanted it to be. Hearing Denice Duff and Gabriel Pranter and Michelle Bauer talk about their experiences with the movie, what they thought of the movie, seeing the movie afterwards, and they're just kind of talking about this film. It made me appreciate it even more than I did when I watched it. Like, I enjoyed the film. I truly did. Like, some people will say, Brad, there are some things that you like that other people would not like as much. Julio from the Contrarians calls them Bradfest movies. So there definitely are some movies that happens. But this one I did truly enjoy. And I like a good possession movie. I like a movie that has those fun twists along the way. Like, I really enjoyed The Pope's Exorcist that came out this year. I really liked Pray for the Devil, which was another possession movie that came out this year. And then I add this one, The Exorcists. And, I loved it. There are some twists in this movie that I'm not going to give away because I want you to go see it. I'm keeping this spoiler free. But there are some twists in it that happen as it goes that I really enjoyed. And hearing them talk about their experiences and everything with this movie kind of made me ramp up a little bit. I'm probably going to go back and rewatch the film just for that fact, just because I did enjoy my time. Go seek out The Exorcists. It is on VOD and digital right now. If you have access to Hoopla through your library, you can check it out there, which that's how I saw it. Let's move into my chat with Jose, Gabriel, Michelle, and Denice, and I will talk to you on the other side. Hey, everybody. Like I said at the top of the show, I have some special guests that I am talking to today. I have the writer-director of The Exorcists, Jose Prendes, and two of the stars from the movie, Gabriel Pranter, who plays Wit in the movie, and Michelle Bauer, who is the voice of the demon Lamach in the movie. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me.
Thanks for having us, man.
Great to be here.
I appreciate you making time for us.
Oh, yeah. And it was one of those, this movie, I know you can speak to it. This movie is, there's some other possession movie that's out in theaters right now. Your movie is out on VOD, kind of coinciding with this. Kind of, we have two possession movies, one at home, one outside of home. How did The Exorcist kind of come about?
Well, it's an asylum film, so I'll say that up front.
Yes. And
because I think most people judge it based on the production company, and I get it, but there a whole bunch of us that are trying real damn hard to make real cinema, and at any level possible, because we love making movies. This project came to me obviously because there is Exorcist Believer in theaters, and that whole brand is being revived. Mm-hmm. For better or worse, as we're sort of seeing now with the reception of the film, which we won't go into. Well, I guess we could maybe at the end, but it's not about that movie right now. But I'm obviously a huge fan of The Exorcist. I grew up Catholic, so I have that background. That Jesus is a superhero, the devil's gonna mess with you. That whole The Exorcist is super scary because of that concept. Even people who didn't really believe in that stuff were still traumatized by that movie. So it's still very powerful. And I've always wanted to tackle that subject matter. When the opportunity arose, I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is my chance to do an Exorcist movie. Mm-hmm. While it is, some people call it a mockbuster. In the studio, we call them tie-ins because that's really what they are. We're not trying to mock them.
Okay. Yeah.
This goes back to the 70s, Italian cinema, they ripped off. Zombie was a ripoff of Dawn of the Dead, and they ripped off Mad Max, and that it's a convention of the genre, for decades going on in the entire genre cinema landscape. So it's not anything new that the Asylum is doing, but the effort that goes into making these movies is as much as goes into making any movie, even though we don't have the budget and time to make it happen. So basically, long story short, the inception was they wanted an Exorcist movie, and I really, really wanted to make one. And we busted our ass to make one. And that's where it all began.
And your shooting schedule was fairly quick turnaround, correct, for this movie?
Oh yeah, 6 days.
A little bit.
We
6
shot this-
days.
we
Okay.
shot this whole thing in 6 days.
For you, like Gabriel and Michelle, like doing Gabriel, you were on set. How was a 6-day shoot for you? Was this like get in? Oh man, it's go time. We got to get this.
It's tough. Luckily, I have a theater background, so
Okay.
usually that helps a lot with a quick turnaround because it's just like you're doing it once, maybe twice.
Okay.
So you show up, you're prepared, you're ready to go and do it. But it's grueling. Especially it seemed like our days would start off kind of like the movie because we had split days. So the beginning of the day would be when the sun was out, and then once the sun went down, that's when all the spooky and climactic stuff started happening. So when we were actually shooting a lot of those intense scenes, we were pretty worn down. It really actually helped. At least I thought so. You're playing characters who are all exhausted from fighting this demon.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not really reaching too hard to look and feel exhausted. But, it's tough, and it's all about the prep, and Jose was great about that with, getting us all together and doing some script reads before and book work. And I think that made the difference with this, really, is what Jose put into it before the cameras even started rolling.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew exactly what we were doing. We were confident in that. And it was because of Jose, for sure.
Thank you, bud.
With this quick, like Michelle, you are involved. I mean, you are known for a lot of horror movies and such from the 80s. We got Doug Bradley, we got Denice Duff. Like, how did all of you get involved?
Oh my goodness. Well, Linnea Quigley and I are still fantastic friends from back in the day. And through Linnea Quigley, she has a mutual friend, Brendan, whom she introduced me to. We were having lunch at her place up in the mountains. I won't say where. From there, we connected a friendship, and I had done a little bit of voice work for one of Brendan's friends, Zach. And then Brendan said, oh, well, hey, there's this guy, Jose, for Asylum that's doing this demon movie. Would you be interested in doing the voice for that? And I thought, well, sure, why not? I was very nervous because he sent me a link to the voice preparation for the movie The Exorcist. And I thought, oh, that's all he wants? So I just thought, okay, I'll take a chance and just lay down some stuff. And I'm not, tech savvy. So I asked him, gee, how do I do this? And he goes, oh, just put it on your phone and get it to me. I said, okay. So I did. I laid down a few tracks, and he just said, wow, yeah, this is perfect. It's what I want. And I went, yay. So then we just got together and we put this down. But I'm telling you, I cannot say, he took me to lunch just before we were going into the ADR booth, right? And I told him how nervous I was, that I had butterflies in my stomach. And he was glad to hear that. And I don't know why, because I didn't go into it very confident. But I guess you don't want to go into anything. Yes, I guess. Yeah, I was very, very nervous, very scared. And I'd done ADR in the past, but this was, to me, a whole different voice that I'd never attempted before. And I didn't know the characters. I didn't know the movie. I'd read the script, but I really didn't know a whole lot. And it was all very last minute. And luckily, we clicked and it laid down. We were all amazed just how well that it went. And it was just, I think spontaneity happens a lot, and best things happen that way. And that was how it happened for me. Yeah, it was great. And the movie was so good.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so good. The lady
great.
next to me was a guest of someone, and she's going, oh no. And you should have heard her gasping and screaming and hiding in her chair. And she laughed at all the right moments. And if Jose could have witnessed this woman's reaction, if it would have just been your regular crowd, he would have been so pleased. Because I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I found myself wanting to watch it again because there were a lot of hidden things, like with, Gabe playing Wit and things that you didn't know, and also with Denice and playing the nun, you realize through the movie how these characters all come to be. I'm not going to let too much out, but it all comes together at the end, and you want to see it again and go, oh, okay, I want to know when I recognize that this is when this is starting to happen with these characters, because they all go through such change that you really have to keep an eye on.
For you, Jose, I mean, you got Pinhead himself, the Hellraiser, Doug Bradley involved to be a priest in the film. How can you talk to how like that came about? Like, do you just call Pinhead up and say, "Hey, you want to be a priest in my Exorcist movie?"
He's fine. He's whatever. No, I mean, no. He's obviously a huge fan. He was always that sort of at the top of our list. They always want a big name for these kind of movies, and you have to be careful with who you pick, because one of my favorite things, next to writing it, when you're by yourself and it's just you in the movie and you can just feel every moment and live every moment, and every character kind of comes through you, and it's an incredible feeling. My second favorite thing about making a movie is working with the actors, because then the movie comes to life. Then they are the movie. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I've done, how many days we shot it in, whatever happened. Oh, catering was late or whatever. They are the movie. The actors on screen are the film at the end of the day. And that's something I stressed to Gabe and the rest of the actors when we did the table read. It's like, look, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you guys are ready, but you guys have to bring your A game or this isn't going to work. If you don't give a shit, people are going to tell. And the movie's going to be cold, and it's going to be boring, and it's going to be flat, and it's just going to vanish, and that's it. Everyone walks away, whatever. Oh, that's the thing I did. No one talks about it anymore. But I want you to care, because we're trying to make something special. We're trying to make something that lasts. And then when I went to, when we were talking about who do we get for the big name, I'd met Doug Bradley years and years ago at a convention. He was very kind to me and my wife. And I was like, man, one day I want to work with him, because he was so nice. And, and that's the thing, unless you don't go to horror conventions, you wouldn't know that all these horror people are the kindest people in the world. Right?
Yeah, I go to horror conventions all the time, and they're just like the nicest people. I met Doug Bradley, one of the first people I met at a convention, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. Yes. They're just so kind, and they take time to talk to you and whatever and connect. It just feels like, oh wow, this guy rips people's skin off, but he's so friendly. So like one day I'm gonna find the right thing for Doug, and it was this. And the producers really liked the idea, and we went out to him, and he was willing to work with our budget and our schedule. Actually, he didn't even know that the schedule was as tight as it was until much later, and he was very shocked.
I think till he showed up.
Oh yeah. No, he wasn't aware that it was. I mean, he knew that he was there for 4 days, 4 out of the 6, but he didn't know that we only really had 6 days of filming, and he was very shocked. And I think. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he was a little dubious that it could happen. But man, even though we ran late on a couple days, we killed it, and he killed it, and it was incredible to work with him and with Michelle. I'm a huge fan of Michelle's work, and my buddy Brendan said, hey, Michelle was at the premiere of my movie. We went to his movie, but I had my kids, and it was like midnight, so I didn't have a time to like hang out and meet people. So I'm like, Michelle would be awesome. Can we get her? And she said yes, and so I'm just glad I got everybody in this movie.
Speaking of people, we have someone to bring in right now. We have.
Uh-oh. Who is it?
We have Denice Duff.
Yay!
Yay!
Hi. Well, hi there. I get to come to this party.
You do.
It's the S party, Exorcist with an S.
Yeah.
So here we're gonna welcome in Denice Duff, who plays Sister Caroline in the movie. I've been talking to everybody about kind of their experience. It was, a quick shoot and how everything went. And for you, Denice, how was your experience with this film?
She took my joke. And that's
I'm late to the party, but I always have his sense of humor. I mean, I don't know if he has mentioned this, but I got to be in one of the first films. I mean, I'm saying one of the first, but I think it was the first.
The first
film that he ever did. And, he flew me to Florida. He was but a teenager. And And ironically, I've now found myself here in Florida, and now I got to fly to him decades later to be in his many films later. And so it was very heartwarming. It was this nice full circle story to just see how someone with such a vision and a passion for this genre, just who's never given up. And I have such a soft spot for this genre, having, between the Subspecies and Full Moon Pictures and going to these conventions, and I'm sure, Michelle, you can see that as well, that fans of this genre are so much cooler than fans of like any guest star work I've ever done on a TV show.
Yeah, Jose was just talking about that, like fans of, and you and I met in March at Horror Hound here in Cincinnati. You and I talked a little bit as we were walking in, talking about Subspecies.
Yes, yes. See, you're one of the cool ones.
Thank you.
Like, okay, I've done like CSI Miami. Like, if I did a convention for that, it wouldn't be nearly as fun as Horror Hound, And so when you're on a set doing a film, not only are you seeping in the enthusiasm of the director, although I have to say, I think I'll be hard pressed to ever find another horror director that has as much spirit of play and childlike joy as Jose does. Did he tell you that he has his Pikachu yellow headset earphones?
No.
And were they hot pink fluffy slippers, Gabe?
Yes. Well, one night, was it every night? No, you changed the slippers, didn't you?
No, it was every night.
It was every night the same one.
Hey, and I have a question about the teddy bear. Where'd that teddy bear come from?
Uh-oh.
And Gabe's groping of it. Where did that come from?
Yeah, you sick son of a bitch.
Did you notice the groping? That's an Easter egg for people who are actually paying attention.
And I love the chuckle in the audience. Now, of course, I saw it with the cast, and we got all the humor. We got things that were humorous that maybe shouldn't have been humorous, but we also know that Jose puts just such a great spirit of play into his scripts and into his storytelling. And that's just what makes this ride so much fun. Along with the darkness and the surprises. I watched it again as soon as I got back with my husband.
I mentioned that. Yeah, I told him you want to watch it again. Absolutely.
Yeah, because then you go back and then you're watching it from the viewpoint of what right? How it trailed out. And then you try and find what were the clues leading up to that.
See, right. Yes, it's exactly what I got from it too.
Absolutely. Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah. And I also want to say and mention about, you were talking about getting Pinhead. Tell them about who you got to score the movie, Jose.
Oh my God, yeah. The incredible Harry Manfredini, the man behind the Friday the 13th. The entire soundtrack of Friday the 13th, the entire franchise. Harry Manfredini is doing our music, and he is just another one of those people that I, emailed out of the blue, like, look, I'm a massive fan. You'll probably say no, and this is for my last movie, Headless Horseman, and I said, I don't have a lot of money, but I believe in this movie. I think it's gonna be something special. I would be honored if you would do the music. And I expected him to write back and say no thanks, or like, oh, my fee is $5,000 a day or something. And he wrote, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. Holy crap. Yeah.
See, take note, people listening right now. Yeah. That's the power of the ask.
It's so true. Doing this podcast, it's the same way. Like, I've put a big focus on horror movies, and it's just like, I'm just going to ask. The worst I can say is, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. But I tried.
It costs nothing.
And that's all I did. I asked Jose. I said, hey, you want to come chat? And look, he even brought friends with him. So
right.
You just have to ask.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. No, Jose's the king of ask.
How has since this has been released, how has the reception to it? Because I know, like you said at the beginning, some people look at it as like, oh, it's the asylum. I know I'm getting, giant ape versus whatever, or a shark movie, or just some they know what they're going to get. And so they see this, they're like, the Asylum, Exorcists. And this isn't a typical type of the Asylum film that I've watched before. So you had an eye on this one. This isn't that typical movie you would get from the Asylum. You did a great job with this. But how has the reception been when people see that?
Well, I appreciate that, and I don't want to. I'm not going to, talk negatively about, the people who hire me, and I love them very much. But absolutely, there is a, for lack of a better word, a stigma attached to the name, and I've luckily been able to develop a reputation over there as an outlier. Most of the work I've done. I'd say most of the work that I've directed, I think pretty much everything I've directed over there has felt very different from the typical Asylum production. And I've been told by the producers that it's like, yeah, we know you're you're the outside the box guy. You don't make the typical Asylum movies, and I, in a way, it's, not that it's a compliment or anything, but in a way, it's nice to know that I can be a filmmaker and not necessarily, feel like a hired hand to come in and do whatever. Not that those other guys are. I'm not disparaging anybody. I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
But I try to make the movie stand out. I try to make it a little different. I know what's missing from some of those movies, and I do my best to enforce those elements in my films. Like, acting is usually always something that is, hit and miss. So I really want to focus on getting a great cast that I know can handle the work, and then impress upon them the fact that, look, at the end of the day, we love doing this. Let's give a shit about what we're doing. I mean, I've heard horror stories of other movies where the director doesn't even meet the cast till the day of shooting. And it's literally like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm the director. Okay, stand here and say your lines. Action. I couldn't do that. Because the actors are as important to the movie as the script, as the dialogue, as the setting. They're much more crucial. If I could just have a black room and actors, that's a movie. Yeah, I try to make a different movie. I try to make something that stands out, focuses on more human characters, drama, on developing those quiet moments that you don't normally see in a low budget movie. All that stuff is interesting, and that's the stuff that you rewatch a movie for, the characters. You don't necessarily watch it for explosions and things. You watch it for the characters because you care and you want to go on that journey again with them. And I'm happy to hear that it's rewatchable.
He stands by that, and especially that I just saw The Offer, and so I got to see some behind the scenes of The Godfather. And Jose did do that in that he scheduled dinners before we started shooting, like meet and greets.
Outing.
He had us all, he had us all go to a spa. We were all sitting in a hot tub.
I was like, I didn't get invited to that one.
Don't tell Gabe.
We did go on a ghost sightseeing tour.
Oh.
Yeah, he literally took the cast on the ghost sightseeing tour around the locations before we even started shooting.
I mean, if you're going to be possessed, you might as well have some ghosts beforehand.
Was it supposed to be haunted, the place where you shot? Was it haunted?
Well, it was
actually, the mausoleum was, but the place that we went, there's a group of kids that's sort of like my 80s contingent in the movie. I took them, and then whoever else wanted to come, Gabe came.
I was the only other
we went hiking. That's okay. I'm glad you were there.
Yeah. No, so was I. It was great.
It was great. We went on this like haunted hiking path that was like maybe 5 minutes from the location. But that place is super active, and I actually, off tangent, but I actually saw a ghost there, and it's the most like paranormal thing I've seen. So I always take people there, and we do a little tour, and I think it's nice because you tell people, hey, you're gonna be friends in this movie, and you just met. It's weird, it's awkward. I think it just reads strange. So I always want to at least let's have you guys at least hang out one time. I'm not saying become best friends and be bridesmaids at each other's weddings or whatever, but at least get to know each other and feel like you've spent time together, and doesn't feel so cold. And that's the one thing I really hate.
Invited to Jenna Lynn's bridal shower? Wait, awkward. Okay.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he creates a family environment like right off the bat.
So what's the future hold for The Exorcist? We just hit VOD, and you're going digital route. Will there be a physical release down the road?
There is, and I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't answer your question. The reception has been, oh wow, this is pretty good for an Asylum movie.
Yeah.
So That's. I mean, I just want people to give it a chance. It's just one of those things that you never know. If people just like, it's Asylum, I'm not even going to bother. Give it a chance, and if it doesn't work for you, fine. That's okay. Not every movie's for everybody.
Not every movie's for
And
everybody.
that's Bradley. I mean, come on, that you got this icon, right? This horror icon that also happens to be a brilliant motherfucking actor. Like literally, he phones in nothing.
No.
The amount of dialogue that he had to utter was insane. The only time I'd ever seen a man of his age be able to do that was Andy Griffith on a Matlock episodes. Like it was crazy. The lack of time that he had, the pages that he had to read, and he did it flawlessly. And he would say to me in between like takes, he was so impressed with the writing that Jose did. And he didn't have to, usually if anything, actors like, they kind of use their fellow actors to blow off a little steam of like, my God, they're really pushing us or, whatever. I mean, not a whole lot, but no, on the contrary, he just had nothing but amazing things to say about Jose. And every time he'd say something nice, I'd break out my camera and I'd start filming him. Because, Jose is like, he's like my son / brother. And like, for example, like one of the opening scenes where, it's not giving away anything, but he loved to say how this priest felt he had a failed exorcism and what that did to his heart. And he's being recruited to now embark upon another exorcism. And it could have been done that quickly. Like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Father so-and-so. I'm Father so-and-so. Hey, you're the priest that did that. Yeah, it didn't work so well. Hey, would you like to try this? Boom. It could have been done like that. And it might have been written that way in another film. But Jose took, some time to really find the poetry in this character who really felt so bad about who wasn't successful on this previous one. And he said, that's the poetry right there. That's the art. And so when he said those lines, it's very deep. Anyway, I went a little deep there. I need to find something.
No. And I think you're hitting it right on the head, because when we were in ADR and at the end of the movie, which I don't want to give anything away, we're going back and forth as to where the demon goes, in and out of him. And his acting was so superb.
Right.
Amazing.
Jose, we all looked at it and said, no, we can't touch this. We're just going to give it a here and a there and then just let him go, because the scene was epic. It was like the way he went with it, and you're watching it going, no, this has to be all him. And it was amazing to watch and behold how he went with it. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Denice. He's just, he put so much of his heart and soul into it that you don't want to take anything away from him at all. Let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go with it. He's that brilliant.
And working with somebody like that on set, you just look at it and go, man, I gotta step up my game, and it raises your level up.
Totally.
Yeah, everybody around. And Michelle, can I just blow some smoke up your fantastic ass? What an incredible job you did. What an incredible. I had to ADR like 5 lines, in Florida, and I'm trying to squint and wait, what was my mouth saying? And, and what you had to do, it was mind blowing. The characters that you created, and you weren't you were just in a cold box, right? Yeah. Like there was no vibe, no ramp up. And you created this full-fledged, 3-dimensional, perfectly sunk performance. It was just kudos to you. I was so impressed.
Well, thank you very much. And it was just so spontaneous. We were all blown away that it went down. It just did. And that's all that happened. It just happened to be that perfect timing, the perfect day, the perfect whatever, the stars aligned, however you want to call it. It just went down.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, well, Jose was posting. He did like 700 posts just with the two of you, and I was like, wow, now I could see why. Like, what a beautiful time he had with you in that booth, and this character that you brought was
Well, what was great is that we were actually putting down some lines, and Scott, who was doing the actual, what do you call his technical job?
He was the ADR recorder.
The ADR recorder, and he knew, we had it all queued up. We had run the scene that we were going to do, and it happened to be a part where she goes, you know.
Yeah.
And Jose, I heard him, I'm in the booth, he goes, Scott, I saw you jump, and you even knew it was going to happen.
That's funny.
So it was just that good and that much fun, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we had 6 days, like 2 6-hour days to get all of her, and she has like over 200 lines that she had to re-record, or record, I should say. And I was so impressed and shocked by how easy it was, because like, you know, me and Scott talking about like, okay, so let's see how difficult it's gonna be. The actress, she was matching, her mouth didn't really open very wide, so like, okay, this might be a little hard. Yeah. But we don't have a lot of time, and we're going to do what we can. But almost instantly, I mean, like she said, she sent in her auditions. Her first take was it. I'm like, that's it, 100%. That's the one I sent to the producers. And you know, one producer said, let's just get the regular actress's voice and change it with digital effects. Like, no, I don't want that. 'Cause that's gonna sound like auto-tune. It's gonna sound really fake. It has to feel like a human voice, or at least an organic voice for it to really read as creepy. And then luckily my other producer approved it, and it went through, and Michelle just nailed it. And I was just so impressed how, I mean, it was so easy. I was just kind of sitting there sipping my coffee going, great, moving on. Awesome, moving on, we got it. And it's like the easiest day on set, really. So Michelle, you really blew it away. Thank you so much.
Well,
he didn't even need his lucky slippers for that day, I'm sure.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen those, though.
Yeah, well, what if I could at 3 a.m?
Yeah.
Future of The Exorcists. You said physical in the future. Do they come with lucky slippers?
Oh man, they should. So. I right now it's a DVD coming out in December of 2023. I think December. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's sort of the target date. I have not gotten a confirm on that.
We won't hardline you to that. We'll just say.
And what are the bonus features, Jose? What are are you gonna?
Well, right now I'm cutting together a behind the scenes, which is made from some YouTube vlogs that I put out during the production, just sort of condensed.
Right.
And that Denice actually helped me out on a few of those, so I appreciate that. And then potentially a commentary, but I'm trying to figure out if we can squeeze one in and do a commentary track with as many people as possible. And then fingers crossed, there is a chance, slim at best, there's a chance that this may be the Asylum's first 4K release.
Wow.
I'm pushing hard for it because the movie looks incredible in 4K. I mean, we wanted to, my DP Mark David did an amazing job. We wanted it to look like a Renaissance painting, so it has this really rich, warm feeling to it. And in 4K, it's just jaw dropping. And I'd love to get a chance to release that. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
So I have to ask Denice something, because when we were watching the movie at the screening, and you're this nun.
Yeah.
That you play so perfect and innocent, but then as your nun character transforms and you do these facial expressions that were just, where did that come from? Because we were all going, whoa, oh my God, look at her do that. It was like, it was like shocking when you were standing there. I know you're talking, you know what the one scene I'm speaking of, and you're in the room and, you're revealed, and it was just amazing where you came off with that. Had you practiced those faces before or those expressions?
Well, Jose asked me before after I got the part, he said, I want you to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh.
And Gary Oldman's character.
Yes. Okay.
And I will say, and I don't know if this is spoiler or whatever, but working with Demon Eyes, it's an interesting thing. It feels like your eyes, it seems like your eyes are closed. And I actually had to ask other cast members, I had to ask Kayla, are my eyes open?
Oh.
Because it's so black Your eyes are you're unless you've got the mesh ones. I had the mesh ones at the very end of the film, but in the beginning stages, you're completely blind. So that's an interesting way to perform where you see nothing. You can't see who you're acting to or what. So you're just operating off your own crazy ass visions, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I also felt that my eyes were closed, and the contact lady said, she said, yes, that's a common thing. And sometimes people tend to droop their eyes a bit because the muscle, since you're not seeing anything, you're not working that muscle. So she said, you may just want to put a little energy effort into your eyes to make sure that they're open. So between that, wanting to make sure that my eyes were open, between a little Gary Oldman and just the joy of transforming with someone else in you, that, what's the opposite of a glorious nun?
Right.
Evil U-N-T. It's just,
And Gabe, when you had your lenses in too, that really changed you a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was, it was pretty weird because like they put them in and then we had to walk across the building in the darkness. And it was like, 3:30, almost 4 in the morning when we were doing it.
Yep.
And so as soon as they got in, that was the first time we'd ever acted with those two, at least me. Yeah. And so I was like, I've never done this. And they got in and like my heart rate immediately.
They don't hurt.
No.
Some people have asked if they don't hurt at all. You just feel like you're in a black coffin. Like,
they look quite large though to go.
They are.
They're kind of itchy. They're not like super comfortable, but you get used to them pretty quick. Especially if you have to wear them a lot.
Yeah, if you wear contacts.
I've never worn contacts at all. So it was like, this was a whole new experience, but and then it's this very climactic scene and I can't see my scene partner,
Right.
It was pretty surreal, and I don't know what's in front of me. And so immediately your body's just like, don't move. So you're having to fight those instincts,
right?
Because you can't see. And it's like, I have to just go for it. It was weird. It was like liberating and terrifying, but I think we might have done that in one take.
Oh yeah.
Oh, pretty much. It was all
I don't think we had an option on that. So I was out pretty quick after that, but it was weird, but really cool experience.
Yeah, just really cool to know because, you're saying, your background in theater.
Mm-hmm.
So did you find you had to tap into that moment, or it was just something beyond anything you had experienced before?
I don't know. I'm sure it helped. There's a lot of times, at least that I've experienced on sets where there's like apprehension or trepidation. Like I had to ride a horse in something and I was terrified to do it. But I did it. And it's like, you kind of just shut that part of your brain off and just say, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm going for it. It's really cool. I think that's my favorite part about it, is doing something that challenges you. And this was something I was afraid of. I didn't want to do the contacts, but I was just like, I have to ignore that part and just do it because that's what the job calls for. That was pretty cool because I would have never put those things in my eyes if someone wasn't like, you have to do it.
And then the listening
and
to
I
you,
saved
Denice,
mine.
but
I
as
saved
far
mine.
as being lost
I
of
did
one
too.
of your main senses, like your sight, I think that's huge. How that would change you, like Denice was saying, and for yourself, it just changed your whole perspective of that scene and how you're doing it. You had to reach in for something else. Yeah,
you have to dig deep for sure. And it was just focus on your objective. Focus on your objective.
Very cool.
It was just constantly. Yeah.
I want to thank all four of you, Gabriel, Michelle, Denice, Jose. Thank you so much for chatting with me. And I wish you nothing but luck for The Exorcist. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Go seek it out on VOD. If people listening, if you have Hoopla connected to your library account, that's how I watched it. So go check it out there too. Like, it's out there. Go watch it.
Redbox streaming, Vudu. It'll be on Amazon Prime eventually, and physical media in depending on when you're listening to this, it should maybe out already, but physical media before the end of 2023.
Okay.
And hopefully Denice and I will have some on hand, so when we hit our shows, we can distribute to the public also. So look for us wherever we are, and hopefully we'll have it with us.
There you go.
Yay,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's great.
Thank you.
I want to thank Jose, Gabriel, Michelle, and Denice for chatting with me again. It was such a blast. So much fun hearing their stories about this film, about everything that went into it. Jose talking about, this 6-day schedule, and even Gabriel kind of saying, this crunch time as they were going through 6 days, how by the end you were just kind of tired, and that's usually when the possession stuff. So it really like ramped that up. It was so much fun talking to them. I had such a blast and cannot thank them enough for taking time out of their day to chat with me. Go seek out The Exorcists. So before I go, I'm going to give you a couple movies that I watched at home this past weekend that one was a hit, one was a miss. So we'll start with the miss. The first one was Pet Sematary Bloodlines. I did a binge and I watched the original Pet Sematary, which is an absolutely fantastic movie. On the rewatch, it just solidified how good it is, how much I love it. It'd been a few years since I've watched it, so it's so good. Gage is so creepy. And then I watched Pet Sematary 2, and that movie is pretty wild, especially the third act of that movie. It just goes bonkers, and I still enjoyed my time. I personally didn't think it was better than the first one, but I still had fun. Then I went and watched the remake, which I had never seen before. Some remakes are bad, some are good, and it's one of those that I just never got around to. And honestly, it wasn't terrible. It was pretty decent. And after watching, I saw it the day after watching the original one and seeing them that close, and how they try to add a few twists to kind of change it up a little bit, which I did appreciate and I did enjoy that. Overall, I had fun with the movie. And then in preparation, I watched all three of those so I could watch Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which came to Paramount Plus. And I will say I was very, very disappointed in it. It is a prequel to these stories, and it felt like they crammed way too much into this 90 minutes. It's like they originally thought up the idea as for a limited series or a series in general, and they couldn't go through with the series. So everything got crammed into a 90-minute movie, and there was just too much, so many things that they tried to explain, and they just didn't give it room to breathe. And that's why it really, really missed the mark. It could have been very good, especially as a series, but it just missed bad. So I can't recommend Pet Sematary Bloodlines. I guess if you've seen the others, you can go check it out. And then the hit for me that I watched over the weekend is on Amazon Prime, and that is Totally Killer. This is a time travel movie that a teen from 2023 goes back in time to stop a killer in 1987. So you take this 2023 teen into 1987 with some of the jokes and the way kind of the world was at that time. So there were a lot of jokes of, why would you say that? Or why, don't touch, you permission to touch, and like the weed and all kinds of other things. Like, I thought it was hilarious and absolutely loved Totally Killer. It had the feel of like a Happy Death Day or Freaky. It felt like it could fit in that same universe as those films. And I think that's what I really loved about it. It was just a fun slasher horror comedy that I would highly recommend checking out on Amazon Prime. Before I go, though, I have one brand new promo that I want to let everybody know about. That is for a film called Vindicta, starring Elena Kampouris, Jeremy Piven, and Sean Astin. Vindicta is on digital now. When a city is terrorized by a sadistic serial killer, a seasoned detective and a newly recruited paramedic are forced into a deadly game of vengeance, where the key to stopping the bloodshed lies in unlocking the truth of their own haunted past. Vindicta is available in the Microsoft Store from Paramount Pictures. I will have digital codes to give away for it. Just follow me on social media, either myself or my other show, the Cinema Guys, and you could win yourself a digital code for Vindicta. Well, that will do it for another chapter of Old Man Brad. Like I've said multiple times, subscribe to the show. October is going to be a great month. I had Gerald from Two Peas on a Podcast last Friday. He and I talked 1989's Intruder. This Friday for Tales from Tubi, I have Jason from Binge Movies. We try to make sense of the 1986 film Neon Maniacs, and let me tell you, I don't think we particularly did. Interview I had today, I have a couple more interviews for the month coming, and a few other great Tales from Tubi episodes. The Demon's Rook with Drew from Real Feels, Deadly Manor with David from We Watch a Thing. So you won't want to miss it. October is going to be such a fun month here on Old Man Brad. I'll be back soon with a new episode. But remember, Tuesdays aren't just for tacos. We'll talk to you later, everybody.